Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Rosie Grant and I'm the Executive Director of Paterson Education Fund, and I thank you for joining us today. This is our 2021 Paterson School Board Election Candidates Forum. PEF is not endorsing any of the candidates, but rather we're providing an opportunity for you to get to know them. There are 4 candidates vying for 3 three-year terms. In addition to this forum, you can learn more about the candidates and the election issues in our Educated Voters Guide, which will be available on our website later this week at paterson-education.org, and we will also share it on Facebook. This session is being recorded. Everyone is muted, and we'll ask you to stay muted except for the candidates and the moderators. There will be time for 1 or 2 questions from the audience at the end. Please write your questions in the chat box as you think of them. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Karen Brown, Esquire. Karen is PEF's board secretary, and she will be our moderator this evening. Karen, you're muted.
Sorry. Good evening, everyone. I want to take this opportunity to thank each of our candidates for participating in this evening's forum. And I also want to thank everyone that is in attendance. We want to first start out by asking the candidates to please introduce yourselves and share your vision for education in this community. We want to first start out with Ocean.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ocean Castillo. I've been on the board 6 years, seeking re-election for my 3rd term on the Paterson Board of Education. I am been in the city of Paterson since I was about 3 years old. I'm married, I'm a mom of a beautiful baby boy. And education for me and my vision is really an education where all of our students are meeting their full potential. And what that means, we know learning is different for all of our students, but that we're really meeting their needs and meeting them where they are individually, and really collaborating, introducing social and emotional wellness as they're continuing to thrive, making sure that we're taking care of the entire child. For many years, we've talked about language arts and math, but my vision is really something where we're talking about arts, music program, graphic design, technical opportunities, AP classes, various sports, certifications, technical certifications for all of our students, and really trying to understand what they want to do next, at the same time providing them with many options so that they can make a proper decision on what they want to do with their lives and how they can be great members of our community and continue this legacy and continue to work on to educate others. So that's my vision of education in the city of Paterson. It's kind of how I've grown up and what has helped me mature and grow. It's what I want to give back as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Osheen. We'll next go to Manny Martinez.
Good evening. I apologize. My camera is, it says functioning, but my screen is darkened. So after this, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can log on from my phone, perhaps. Please forgive me for that. But my name is Manny Martinez. I'm a lifelong Paterson resident. I've had the honor of serving on the Paterson Board of Education for the last 9 years, and I'm seeking re-election in this upcoming election. I've been a career educator in the city of Paterson for about 15 years now. I started teaching 1st grade at Paterson Public School number 11. And then I spent the next 6 years teaching 1st and 2nd grade before I moved on to do admin work in the city of Paterson, which I continue to do. So education for me is something personal. It's my passion. It's also my profession. So it's very personal to me. I chose this, this field, this calling, or it chose me rather, simply because, as a young man growing up in Paterson, I didn't have any teachers at all who were reflective of who I was or came from where I came from. And I felt that it was important, especially as a male of color, to be, a role model for our young people, especially in elementary education, which is why I chose to teach 1st and 2nd grade, because the 1 minute. Okay. Sorry, Doris. Yeah, for me, it was vitally important for our young people to be able to see someone who looks like them, come from where they come from, in that setting, and you know, especially in the elementary setting, because you know, again, that's where I feel we can be most impactful in shaping them, implying them, and molding them into you know, the well-rounded citizens which we eventually want them to become. So I appreciate everyone at the PEF for putting this together and for having us here this evening. So please bear with me as I try to fix my camera. Sorry.
Thank you, Manny. Next, we'll go with Shawniqua Lemon.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Thank you to Paterson Education Fund for this forum and having us all here. I am Shaniqua Lemon, 1G on your ballot. This is my second time running for a school board position. I am a Paterson resident, born and raised here, went to elementary school here, school 12, school 17, here in the First Ward North Side, where I currently still live. I went to the Paterson Teaching Academy. I didn't become a public school teacher, but I fell in love with early childhood education, where I've spent most of my career. Also have experience working with Girl Scouts, and I'm also currently working for Girl Scouts again now. Why am I running for school board? 3 years ago, I started my own tutoring business. It started as a side hustle just because my passion for helping students succeed brought me an income. So I turned into an entrepreneur, an educational entrepreneur. So through my passion and through working with, you know, students in the Paterson school system, I started to come across a lot of educational problems, our students not being able to read. So that is my motivation for running. And my vision for education here is truly community-based. I would like to see everyone, all hands on deck, parents, business owners, our city officials, our elected officials, really truly giving our all to our education system here in the city of Paterson. And then, of course, offering various ways that we can educate and have confident learners and develop our children into passionate people, whether they are an entrepreneur, whether they are a doctor, whether they are our local mechanic, for our students to develop pride in who they are and pride in Paterson. Thank you.
Karen, you're muted.
Thank you, Shawniqua. Last but not least, Nakima Redmond.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you again, PEF, for this forum. My name is Nakima Redmond, and I've been a board member for the last 6 years on the Paterson Board of Education. And during my tenure here, I served as vice president for 2 of those years, and I was part of the leadership that brought local control back to the residents of Paterson. While I'm clearly loyal and dedicated to the Board of Education, that's why I've strived to try to make sure that our students get the equity that they deserve across our district, and attending conferences that I can be better perfected, and making sure that I can bring back information back to the district and allowing our students to get the equity that they deserve, and also bringing things that we can change in our district and fight at the state level to make sure that our students get the equality education, and making sure that our district can get better facilities for our students.
Thank you. Next question. Having returned to our buildings after 18 months of remote instruction, what should this district be focusing on? We'll first start with Mr. Martinez. I think you might be muted, Mr. Martinez.
Oh, yes, thank you. I finally got the camera working now. I got the mute working too. Thank you. Yeah, after the long 18 months, and again, you know, tip of the hat to all of the folks, you know, in 90 Delaware who worked diligently to get the schools up and running, and it was, you know, not an easy task at all. But now that the you know, the schools are open, I think the primary task is, you know, there's several. You know, obviously we have to continue to allow to have our students and our teachers and our staff in the building remain safe. So that's all the equipment, all the air scrubbers, the filters, the PPE, everything that we've been purchasing over the last 18 months to keep everyone safe needs to be you know, kept in place. Enforcement of those regulations as far as social distancing, wearing of the masks and things of that nature. I think that's the first thing. In order to you know, to begin to educate our children, we have to make sure that they're safe. That's first and foremost. Secondarily, And by no means, I don't mean second as far as rank, but we have to make up for that lost time, the 18 months that our young people were out of the classroom. We have to ensure that time is made up for. So one of the things that was just launched by Paterson Public Schools was a 24/7 online tutoring service, which is now available to all of our high school students. So regardless of the time, what day of the week or anything, our students do have access to online free tutoring when needed. So again, that's just a small snapshot of some of the things that are taking place in our district. But safety first and foremost, and then closing that gap, due to the time that we lost. And I'm sorry, Doris, I don't see you in my thing, so I don't know how much time I am. So I'm just going to end it right there. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Martinez. Ms. Lemon?
What I believe the districts should focus on is, of course, safety and working with parents, working with the teachers so that they feel safe and that they feel secure. They have to be, the students and the teachers, they're the ones that have to be in these buildings. So we can't just say that we have things or I want to say purchase things, but make sure that they are properly working and making sure that, again, people feel safe and secure to even want to be in the buildings. The learning loss, of course, there are some students who are in second grade who, they spent a whole year virtual. Their first year was probably kindergarten. So basic skills are not there on all levels. And we already know, unfortunately, a lot of our students were already behind. So add on a situation like this pandemic, we can only imagine. So I would say realistic goals. I would hope that the district is not, forcing any test taking situations or, jumping straight into a strict curriculum. I hope the teachers are given the flexibility to work with their students. And lastly, of course, social emotional. I hope that the district is taking a serious look at that. Our students and our staff had to deal with, as we all had to deal with, death, sickness, sadness, being isolated, who knows, individual household problems. So just to jump into a situation that's new to all of us, we have to be sensitive to so many factors. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lemon. Ms. Redmond?
Yes, we would like to focus on the safety of our students and also our staff members, but we have to make sure that our students' mental and social emotional skills are taken care of first. So when we adopted and apply for a grant, which the district has gotten, we wanted to make sure that our students have opportunities to leave the classrooms and make sure that they can talk to a guidance counselor to talk about the issues that may have been dealt with for the past 18 months. We wanted to make sure that they feel safe and being able to adapt and talk to their counterparts, because a lot of the students, this is their first time around their students, other students, and getting adapted back to the culture and climate of the school buildings. So yes, safety is important, but you want to make sure that they adapt back to what the normal, we'll say, or the new normal, where new students are coming in and they're adapting to each other. And wanting to make sure that, sometimes you got discipline because children didn't have a lot of time to express those angers or frustrations that they might have had at home. So again, we just wanted to make sure that we focus on their mental capabilities as far as their learning.
Thank you. Last but not least, Mrs. Castillo.
Yeah, so we want to focus, and I, as my colleagues have mentioned, it's a focus and it can't be on one thing. It has to be kind of a multiple things simultaneously. We talked about safety and the importance of safety in all of our buildings. Social and emotional learning. We did receive a grant thanks to the great administration, to Ms. Coy in specific, who've been working hard to make sure that we do have a social and emotional grant where we can have counselors and activities in all of our buildings. It started off as a pilot program for only a few buildings. Thankfully, we've been able to expand that. So it'll be something that we'll be seeing in all of our buildings, not only support staff to speak to, but different events, especially in the mornings to get our children's day started. We talked about not only for our students, but now we have to talk about also the emotional support for our staff. This is not easy. It's not easy to come into this new normal of learning and teaching, but also on how to continue to strive for success and push our students with the anxiety of things that may happen. So we're welcoming sophomores and kindergartens because we have students that did a whole freshman year virtual. So there have been different events and different activities for our sophomores, welcome them in as if they were freshmen, because it's truly their first year, as well as our first graders and our kindergartners who did preschool virtually. So those are some of the things that we have been doing for the district. And I think all three of them are going to require for us to hold the administration accountable in doing so, for us to have those conversations with the community to make sure that all of those three things are being done properly and effectively in our building. So security, social emotional learning, and our safety.
Thank you. Next question, and this is a two-part question. What is a school board member's role and responsibility? And how does that role differ from the role of the superintendent or administration? And how do they intersect? So it's actually a three-part question. So let me repeat it. What is the school board member's role and responsibility? How does that role differ from the role of the superintendent or administration? And how do they intersect? We'll start with Ms. Lemon.
Okay, thank you for that question. So I'm gonna plug in my own community forums that I do every Sunday. I call them Lemonade Sundays. And my first episode that I did, I talked a whole 40 minutes literally about the roles of a school board member. So please go back to that video. But to answer your question, a school board member in Paterson, we have a body of 9. So those 9 people, they're responsible for writing policies. There are committee work that they have to do. I'm pretty sure there's committee meetings and certain topics. For example, if you're on the personnel, if you're on instruction, you and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, commissioners, some staff members from the district are also a part of these committees. And this is where you do most of the work. So when you get to the board meetings, if you've done your work, done your homework, you would be knowledgeable of what is going to be happening with the agenda and what you're voting on. So policy work, committee work, and when it comes to the superintendent, she is the only person that the school board is responsible for. We give her our concerns, we set goals with her and hold her accountable for reaching those goals. So for example, if a parent has a problem and they come to me as your future school board commissioner, I would not have the ability to go into the school and make those decisions and tell them, you should do this and you should be doing it like that. That is the superintendent's and her responsibility and her staff to handle those problems. As a board member, we hold her accountable. We make the votes on contracts, on decisions, on what's going to be allowed for her to do. And the main job is to search for the next superintendent, which is a huge responsibility that's up and coming right now. And thank you for that question. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Ms. Redmond.
Well, the 5 components of being a school board member is governance is one. We have the 5 components, which is governance, finance, IMP, and also instruction and programming. We oversee the day-to-day district goals from the superintendent that she passes along to us. We also ensure that policies are updated. We also make sure that policies are followed by the state of New Jersey. And we also follow the rule that we have to treat each board member with respect. So it's we over me. So at the end of the day, we can have a collective vision. Once I leave the table as a board member, I represent myself, not the district. So if you're walking into those school district as a citizen, when you go into those buildings, you represent yourself, not as a commissioner, not as a board member, but we also hold the superintendent accountable. She's accountable for the day-to-day operations of the school district. She is the CEO, and the board holds her accountable to pass on the visions that we want to see addressed at the board level. And we make sure that we have a happy medium, that we have the communication from the elected few that are elected is there to represent the public. That is our role as a board member.
Thank you. Now, I know that your time is up, but you mentioned that one of the roles of a board member is INP. For individuals who may be listening that don't know what that stands for, can you just tell us what that stands for?
So it used to be called curriculum. We changed that. It is now instruction and programming.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Next, Ms. Castillo. Mrs. Castillo.
So the role of a board member, brass tacks is legislation and financial responsibility. So in basic terms, we create policies in order to support the district's operation. We oversee the budget, spending, recommendations from the superintendent and the administration when it refers to things that they need, vendors that they need, obviously go through the proper RFP or RFQ or bidding procedures, and recommendations are made to the board. The superintendent is our only employee. So we partner in creating a vision. We do have district goals in which we partner in creating what that vision for the school district is that year. And then we create board goals as well as how is the board going to not only grow, but support the district in reaching those district goals. And we evaluate the superintendent if those goals have been reached. Usually happens in the springtime for those evaluations. So we are legislators, so it's creating policy, overseeing budget responsibility, and overseeing the superintendent. Then the superintendent oversees the day-to-day operation. They intersect when we're talking about the vision for the district and how we vision education in the city of Paterson, as well as bringing all of the community's concerns. So whether it's in a specific school, over a specific topic, and how do we work together to find resolutions? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Lastly, Mr. Martinez.
Thank you. I will attempt to not be redundant, for they spoke to several of the points. I guess it's one of the downsides of being the last speaker. But the primary role and responsibility of commissioners on the Paterson Board of, or any Board of Education for that matter, is to legislate essentially through policy. We have direct, oversight of finance, governance, instruction, and program. But, when rubber meets road, really, we are legislators through policy. That is our primary function. The difference, and I'm going to try to hit all three of the layers of the question, they differ in that the responsibilities differ in that the superintendent and her staff, her assistant superintendents, and so on, all down the pecking order, they oversee the day-to-day, undertakings of the school district, whereas we don't. They have firsthand knowledge of things. We may find out, through secondhand information or people reaching out directly to us. But in our day-to-day existence, we're not overseeing what occurs day in and day out in the schools. We are made aware of instances, of course, but we don't oversee. So that is the primary way in which they differ. They intersect in that, again, that information is brought to them, which is then shared with us. And then we give our guidance or directives as to how we feel those situations perhaps be improved or dealt with. So that is the way in which they intersect. So I think I hit on all three. Primary role and responsibility is legislation through policy. They differ in that the superintendent and her team oversees day-to-day, whereas we do not. And they intersect in the sense that that information which is shared with them is shared with us, and then we give guidance and directives on how to handle those instances. So I hope I hit on those 3 points.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Our next question, which is a two-part question, and I promise it's 2 parts. What concerns you about our children's education in Paterson? And what best practice or innovative approach will you introduce to ensure that all our children succeed? We're going to start with Ms. Redmond.
Well, one of my main goals is to focus on the social and emotional learning of our students. Far for too long, especially in the Black and Brown community, we are affected by the way that we are able to express ourselves in an educational setting. Sometimes our students are overlooked. Sometimes we're not looking at them as a whole. So we wanted to make sure that they have the ability to look and then adjust to what they're learning. Some of the innovative ways I think we should have is where students have a break time. within their educational setting, where they could just sit and have a class meeting with some of the students before their class time and get to learn who they are outside of the classroom. And if you're comfortable around your counterparts, you'll be comfortable to learn and they can push you and be a learning mechanism for you and have that support so you can learn together. I saw one of those, it's called the rap session. When I saw this, it was implemented in Louisiana, where students were picked out of the day. It was a group of 24 students, and they just talked about day-to-day things. They talked about what happened at home, and they talked about what happened at the school life. And it gave them an opportunity to form a bond. So that would be one of my creative ways to have our students engage mentally and socially.
Thank you. Mrs. Castillo?
Couldn't find the unmute button. So one of the things that we've talked about and actually have pushed is really giving our students options and really informing them of the options that they have. And when I say that is career-based, so whether it's universities or technical careers, I think it's something that they need to be exposed to from the middle school. So we have started a middle school program in which some of our students will be able to be exposed to some of the career pathways that they may encounter or they wish to fulfill. Now we're talking about the high school restructuring. So it's really trying, we've surveyed the students, and now it's really trying to create academies that will best benefit them. So about 3 years ago, we talked about automotive being something that a lot of our young men were interested in. We partnered with a union, with an automotive union at that point. And what the union did is the student was going to go to NJIT. The automotive union, what does, it helps and it supports the young man or the young men and women to get the certification. So they pay for the certification and they allow you and help you find a job. So, you know, what this student would be paying $60,000 a year for an NJIT, which would have been great. We were able to find a different path for the student to get the same certification completely for free. And then the student went on to working for BMW, you know, making $21 an hour. And I think that's what we have to really strive for. And that's why we're pushing for the restructuring of our high schools, really taking what our students envision and what they want to do and giving them the resources, bringing individuals in-house that are certified. So if you do want automotive, have someone who is certified and has their automotive certification. If it's law and public safety, making sure we have an attorney or a police officer, a firefighter as an instructor, so that they can see themselves in those careers, especially having individuals that look like us, being those teachers, being those professors, and also, thank you, I can't see Doris, and giving them those certification abilities, if technical support, or if they want to continue on to college, it'll come both in one. So it's really my concern in our solution that we've already started to implement.
Okay, thank you. Lastly, Ms. Lemon. No, I'm sorry. Let's go to Mr. Martinez and then we'll go to Ms. Lemon.
Thank you. So one of my concerns, you know, which has always been a concern, even more so now in light of the getting back into the new normal from COVID, you know, is not only, I mean, obviously as educators, our primary focus is to educate our young people, but I think sometimes something that goes overlooked is the whole child. So in my career as an educator, I've always taken that approach of treating the whole child, a holistic approach in education. And that's ensuring that the whole child's needs are being met. I tell this anecdote, you know, often about when I was in the, you know, still in the classroom. I had a first grade student who most mornings would come in and would be very grumpy and things of that nature. And I found out the hard way, you know, by being stern and expecting so much from this young man at the time, that, you know, the night before he was, you know, not getting good sleep. You know, the space that he was sharing, you know, he had an uncle there who kept him up. So he came to school every morning and he was upset. So here I am pushing him to conjugate verbs or whatnot. And he was tired, he was hungry. And I learned through trial and error that what he needed was a little bit of time to acclimate, have a little quiet time, eat some breakfast. Then he joined us. And I was able to really make strides with this young man, and he's completely thriving right now. He's a scholar at a student at Eastside High School, and he's doing phenomenal things. So a holistic approach is something that I've always felt very strongly about. One of the ways that we can better engage our young people, again, is through the notion of athletics, because I think, it teaches the notion of team, it teaches discipline, but more importantly, also on top of the athletics, is the music and the arts component. One of the things that I'm really proud of that this district has taken the lead on is bringing back arts and music. And the proof, part of that proof is through the Paterson Music Project, where a lot of our young people are playing classical music, viola, violin, cello. It's expanding into percussion, into wood, into wind. And there are direct correlations between young people, how they perform academically, and their involvement in the arts. Again, it teaches them the notion of team. It teaches them the notion of discipline. Of this is not only about me, but I have others who are depending on me. It teaches them accountability. And then again, there is that direct correlation. Okay, Rosie, there you go. I saw you. The red means stop, I'm assuming. Sorry about that.
Thank you. Ms. Lemon?
For me, it's important to focus on our children's basic skills, making sure that they are at level when it comes to reading into math. Because from my experience, a lot of our students have just been pushed along. So those basic skills really needs to be met. And to get creative with that, I think it's important to link up and to partner with, organizations that have that in focus with reading campaigns. And me personally, I have started a book club through my business. It's called Brown Faces Family Book Club. And from that, I wanted students and families to start reading together, because simply reading, every day with your children can seriously make a difference in their skills. And then for me personally, when it comes to my work with nonprofits and working at Starlet Academy on North Main Street, that out of school time is super important. When it comes to our teachers, they're in classrooms with 20 plus, 30 plus students. And we want to say that, we're teaching all of these things, but how much time in a day do they literally have to really focus on these things? So that's why we have to make sure as a district, we're partnering with after school programs and really fostering effective programs that all of our students can have, because we do have programs like the music programs, but how many of our 25, 30,000 students are actually participating in these programs that sound amazing, but more students should be able to have access to these programs. So reaching out to our city officials and getting some of these COVID funds that's coming into our city and really allocating the money to directly touch our students is what we need to focus on. Thank you.
Thank you. So before we go to our last questions, I just want to inform our audience that we will be taking questions from you after this last question. So please feel free to enter your questions in the chat, and we will take a few questions from the chat after this last question. I do see that some people have started to do so, so please feel free to enter your questions in the chat. So for our last question, what kind, and this is a two-part question, what kind of relationship should the board have with its community, parents, and families? And how would you handle the requests if approached by an individual or special interest group? We won't take the answers in any particular order, so whoever would like to volunteer to go first, please jump in.
Do you mind repeating the question?
Yes, I was going to say that.
What kinds of relationships should the board have with its community, parents, and families? And how would you handle the requests if approached by an individual or special interest group?
I'll jump in first.
I'll jump. Oh.
Okay, no, please, after you, by all means.
Jump in. Okay. So more than ever, and I think it's always been withstanding, but I think more than ever as we are really going into local control, I think the relationship with the community, with parents, it has to be a true partnership where we can really have conversations, or we can really have dialogue. Commissioner Martinez mentioned earlier, we're not in the buildings every day. But we're not also in your homes every day. There's no one better to tell us what your need of your child, niece, nephew, grandchild is than you. And it's really creating that bond and that partnership where there's open dialogue, where we're really talking about issues and finding solutions to them. Even if we may not have the solutions right at that second, but is really committing to hearing and listening to what is being said and coming back and really taking it with all the seriousness and coming back to the table and bringing them, the parents and the community, back to the table, and really coming with solutions or options or things that we can do. And I think that's important, and it's more important than ever. But it's also choosing a superintendent that is available to families as well. As we move over and we transition, having someone in that seat who is really partnering with the board and partnering with the community so we can work as a team, because that is something that for many years is something that was really lacking in the city of Paterson. We have made great strides, but there's more work to be done. And I think we have to strengthen what that teamwork looks. And that really is the involvement of the community. And it is our job as the board to push for that community involvement as well. And the second part, I don't want to lose it. I think that any person, as Commissioner Redmond said, we're no longer board members once we leave the dais. We are ourselves. Any person who has contacted us directly is something that goes back to the superintendent. So whether it's for employment, whether it's for business, whether for whatever it may be, it's something that has to go through a proper protocol and channel. So go back to the superintendent to get the correct information for those proper channels and procedures to be followed. Thank you.
So I'll jump in next. Transparency. As board commissioners and parent partnership, we would like to see transparency where parents feel that they can trust us in being able to ask us the hard questions, because sometimes when we sit at the desk, you may not understand what we see behind the scenes representing you, but if you pull us together or in a committee and work with our PTOs, then we can answer those questions. So transparency will be one. We would love to see more interaction with the parents coming to our meetings, and also just being informed of what the local control looks like and what our district is moving forward looks like. We can't move forward without the community's help. Things are changing drastically. We want to be innovative with you, and we can be a true partnership where we can offer programs that can satisfy the whole family dynamic. So we don't want to seem like we're educating just the child. We want to educate the whole entire family. For the special interest groups, that right there, all of us, when we sit down at the table, we take an ethics course and oaths. We cannot cross that line. And when we do cross that line, it becomes unethical. And we can be removed as board members when we have special interest groups meeting with us personally. And all things should be referred back to the superintendent so she can give them the proper process. We have a process of a procurement process. So anything, when we have anything dealing with contracts, we have a procurement office. The office directs them on how contracts are being issued and what it means to get an RFP or RFQ.
Thank you.
Ms. Lemon, if you'd like to go next, or I can jump in, whichever you prefer.
Thank you, sir. For me, again, passion, purpose, partnerships is why I'm doing this. Right now, I pray, I hope that the platform that the campaign that I'm running is encouraging people to pay attention, to say, hey, we should care about school board and we should know what's going on. From this experience, I do feel that a lot of parents are now understanding and now is having a desire to want to get involved. So I will do my best, and I have been doing my best to share information as I learn things as school board commissioners, as we learn things and come across information that can be helpful to the community. I hope, not everyone is social media focused and uses it, but whatever ways you can have with communication, I hope that, I know for me, I will use communication as best as I can, especially when it comes to our teachers and understanding what's needed from them. And most importantly, even listening to our students. You know, we have students, they have voices. We're all talking about decisions that we will make and what we would do, but taking that time to listen to them. And of course, community, because again, local control is not just a buzzword. I talked about that last night. It's about everyone taking responsibility and holding each other accountable. And when it comes to special interest groups, I know I am an honest person. I have integrity. I will follow procedures. I would learn the process. If it's going to the board president, bringing that information back to a meeting, whatever policies and procedures that are put in front of me as a school board commissioner to follow, I will do my best to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. So as far as the relationship between community and board members, I feel that it's important that that relationship be honest, it be open, and that we be accessible, to be able to communicate with, with the folks. We're put in these positions to essentially be the voice for the people. And it's only right that we're accountable and we take those concerns to the dais with us. So those are components of that. And more importantly than anything, it's about accountability. With our families as well. Again, we're there to serve them and to be their voices. So without being redundant and speaking a lot of the other things, as far as the special interests are concerned, again, if someone were to approach a board member, the proper thing to do would be direct that person to the appropriate person in the district. As Commissioner Redmond alluded to, we take classes, refresher classes ever so often in ethics, and engaging in those types of conversations are completely unethical. And not only does it, jeopardize your standing as a commissioner on the board, but it jeopardizes your entire district potentially. So rule of thumb, people may want to approach you. They may want to talk to you about certain things, direct them to the proper folks at 90 Delaware, and you can avoid a whole bunch of unnecessary situations in so doing. So thank you.
Thank you. So we are now ready to take questions from our audience, and I'll turn it over to Rosie to select those questions.
Our first question is from Lindsay Lawless. How are you addressing the current situation of outstanding numbers of IEPs being violated on a daily basis in special education classrooms due to lack of staff?
Rosie, are we to jump in kind of at will,
Yes.
or is there a particular order?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
All right. So if the rest of the dais is okay, my mic's already on, so I'll go first. So this has been something that's been an issue in our district, not only in Paterson, but finding highly qualified teachers in special education has always been a challenge. We've revamped in a lot of ways, the staff in our district, and we've really undergone heavy recruitment efforts to ensure that we have the proper number of staff to meet the IEPs. I know a part of that also comes through the conferences and the planning that take place prior to the actual implementation portion of the IEPs. So making sure that those are also in place, that's of paramount importance. But we've taken on that task. We've improved by far. But we still have a ways to go. I know we've closed the gap in some of those IEPs being met, but there's still a lot of work to be done.
Anyone else?
You're mute.
Emma, you're on mute.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
It's through partnerships. The district has partnered with the Educational Law Center to talk about some of the needs that we needed for special education. Also, PEF has been wonderful helping us at the district level to address some of those issues. We also had in place internal mechanisms where our staff member, Ms. Coy, and her staff meet parents on a daily basis to understand the needs of their IEPs and making sure that students and family understand the process of IEPs and updating them every year. Sometimes parents will get an IEP for their child and it's outdated and they're not sure that they have to go each year to make sure that the IEP is addressed. We also partnered with the superintendent, the legal questions that we were getting. We made sure that we had somebody on staff that can address those issues. And again, when we got a little bit of extra money, we budgeted for that item to try to teachers to special education or try to get them to come into the district to represent special education.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Okay, I'm not a school board member currently right now, so I cannot tell you right now what the district is doing, but I can talk about my own personal experience dealing with or helping with IEPs. I've accompanied, I would say 2 parents during their IEP process, but I can say even with starting that process, doing a better job with, helping our parents feel empowered and even educated when it comes to that process, because a lot of the parents, they feel, most parents are already, I don't want to say neglect, but that's a sensitive topic to understand that your child may be behind or your child may be not able to do certain things. So I would say, going back to the start of the process, empowering the parents and getting them to feel confident and seeking, help for their children, and also for them to understand what the IEP means and what services are, entitled to them. So I would say educating and empowering the parents who are going through this process, because it's not easy.
Thank you.
So like Commissioner Martinez said, this is definitely something that, we've been talking for a very long time, and we have made strides. Obviously, and it's unfortunate, COVID has set us back. We have lost teachers that would be recuperated. And just for a little bit of history, for many years when we were under, in the deficit that we have and grossly underfunded, where there was rifting or layoffs, special ed teachers used to always be in that group of teachers that have been laid off. So obviously it was something that we stopped about 4 or 5 years ago, as we transitioned and we really talked about fiscal responsibility. But what we're doing now, especially in this time of COVID, where most of our students were home for 18 months, and it's not only doing heavy recruitment for those individuals who are specialized and who offer the supports, but also working with vendors in order to onboard, whether it's speech therapist and all sorts of services that our students need in order to try to remedy that time and allotment that they're behind. As at the same time, we are recruiting, we are working with individuals for emergency certifications. Thank you to our legislators who have helped us on that matter, so we can make sure that those emergency certifications are completed quickly so that we can onboard as many individuals, specialized individuals in the district as possible. For parents, I know that before the pandemic, there was a group that was started for parents and support parents. I mean, I know our Assistant Superintendent Coy was involved and many of our parents as well. We've seen the partnership and the family that we have with the parents, our STARS Academy. And we want to make sure that's not only at that high school, but it's at every high school and our elementary schools as well. So it's expanding that, that partnerships where parents are teaching each other and they're learning together. Because sometimes it's easy for them, for us or for the district to give all of these technological terms on what the IEP says and what's next, but it's really learning as a community and learning from each other and creating that bond. So thank you.
Thank you.
Karen, our next question is from Shay Brown. How will you address reaching the large community of families that are a beautiful mix of cultures and languages? How do you plan on doing actual outreach to be the voice of so many families who are not aware of decisions being made for their children without their knowledge or input?
So I'll start. One of the things that we implemented, we have a family and community engagement department. They try to make sure that we provide information to parents in several different languages. We also came up with partnerships with the city so then we could put the information on the city's website and also on their television stations. We also have communities, full service community schools where parents can come and get resources that they wouldn't otherwise get. It will teach them as English as a second language. We have sewing classes that we do provide. We also have dental services that's being provided. So it's just not that we're just here to educate our child. Again, we're educating the whole entire family. And we want to make sure that our district facilities are being used for the entire family. So again, with the partners and the partnerships that we're creating, we hope that we can be more involved in the community and that we have a stronger presence. Sometimes parents are afraid to reach out because they really don't understand. So hopefully we can get being better when it comes to communication and making sure that we can assist parents in the right direction. So hopefully we can either recruit some people from the public to help along with our family and community engagement program.
Thank you.
So, Manny,
No,
you and I are
please.
going to do this all the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
I said, Oshin, then please, Shaniqua, then I'll wrap it up. Please, just we have an order, so we're not cutting each other off.
So I actually love this question because, you know, when I spoke about team last time, it really does take an educational village to come out into the community in that village and try to provide information. So, you know, not only the administration, you know, our teachers are doing a phenomenal job in trying to make sure that our parents are informed on information, you know, that they need in their school. You know, Commissioner Redmond spoke about our PTO and our translation and our hotlines in various language where someone will be answering you back or emailing you back. But also us as board members, I mean, we've hosted forums for schools. We've hosted individual setups and community meetings where parents can come and have discussions with us to talk about what their needs are, what their issues are, what their concerns are. And it's also reaching the community or where they are. So it's really communicating. So whether it's with newspapers, radio stations, social media, making sure that that information is properly given and translated is very important. And going to them, you know, so whether it's, you know, sometimes we get the a call and, you know, we have a great communications department as well is, you know, so-and-so is occurring out of school, you know, what is going on? And we've opened ourselves in that partnership where we can have those discussions where our board president and where really the district can have those communications in those languages where they can call that radio station and say, hey, you know, in Spanish or in Bangla, this is what's going on. This is the issue. This is how we remedy. Because our community does not receive information all in the same way. And it's coming up with different ideas. You know, our family and community engagement department has done a phenomenal job at really going to the parents, encouraging PTOs, creating forums, you know, to learn about student engagement, about education, but also different forums that'll help parents and families. So they've done an outstanding job. And our job as a board member, and, you know, we've done that. And it's creating those community partnerships so the district have additional outlets in order to make sure that that correct information is out. Thank you.
Thank you.
As soon as I heard that question, what came to mind was, you know, that's what I'm doing now. Right now, we're running a campaign where we're telling everybody to vote for us to get us in this position, you know, that we're going to be the voice for them. And then at the same time, I'm also trying to do my best to make sure that everyone else knows that they also have a voice and not just to vote for me. Don't stop here. We have to stay in contact. We have to keep going. So all of these contacts that I'm making now, and, you know, anyone who's running for an elected office, any vote that we're asking for, at some point, we should also make sure that we're checking in and saying, hey, do you know the district is doing this? This coming Sunday on my Lemonade Sundays, I want to go and show the district website, because if we simply go to the district website, there's so much information there. And many people simply probably don't even know. Just go to the website. They have this, they have that, they have curriculum guides, they have resources. So sharing the information that's already there. As mentioned, the PTO, Bridget, Eric, and her team, they're always doing things. But again, many people would say, oh, I didn't know that was happening. So as a city, we need to do a better job with filtering and sharing information with each other. And then also, again, when it comes back to this local control, we have to put pressure on our city, on our council people, on our mayor to really stand up for education and help us get the job done and bring in the community. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you all. So parent engagement and community outreach, are, for lack of a better way to put it, are the secret ingredient to me in education. And I mean, when I use the word secret very loosely, because we all know how vitally important it is. In my experience, the most driven and students, and the students who excel the most, have direct impact from their family. The first educators in a family, in a young person's life, is always comes from the house, comes from the home. The old saying is, a child that's only educated at school is not an educated child. It all begins at the home. So it's important that, as a district and as individuals, that we do everything we can to possibly can rather, to reach out to the parents, and keep them informed. So the family and community engagement department does a phenomenal job of sharing that information. They do so in English and Spanish and Arabic, and Bangla. There's over 77 dialects represented in the city of Paterson. Those are the four biggest, areas that represent our scholars, our students. So we share that information. I think one of the crown jewel of this approach, I think, is really what you see at public school number 5 in their full service community school, where they offer a myriad of services, not just academic services for the young people, but then also holistic services for the families. You can see a medical physician there, if I'm not mistaken. Ever so often they have a dental, a dentist who will be there. You can get eye exams, things of that nature. And this is not only just available to the students, but it's also available to their families as well. So again, making these resources available is one thing, but it's also vitally important that we make it known, because we can have all these wonderful things, but if the families don't know about it and they can't take advantage of it, then it's kind of for naught. But continuing to partner with community entities, with our city, and getting this information out there in the languages that our families speak is vitally important. So kudos to that whole department. They do a good job, very good job.
Thank you.
So Karen, our next question is from Rashonda Clark. Many educators are leaving the district. What are your ideas on retaining educators so that we can have individuals who want to be here and service our children stay?
I'll go first. We talked about this a little bit last night. It's partnerships with local colleges such as William Paterson, Montclair, and HBCUs, to try to give them some incentives to come to inner cities, and making sure that they are comfortable in the environment that they want to work in and help our students. Again, a lot of HBC students would love to come and do a partnership and have a training throughout their tenure. So hopefully we can continue those partnerships to get those students here and to become future teachers. Another part of it, I would say, is that we have to have educators that are serious about being in the district. A lot of times we have educators that just don't know that they want to stay here or not. And also we had a process where we was rifting good, talented teachers. So hopefully with the COVID aid that we have, we will be able to retain some of those students. Some of the teachers, some of the teachers in the district, and maintaining that they want to stay here and form things that we can help them with, and having a partnership with other universities so they can become strong and dynamic teachers in the district.
Thank you.
All right,
okay.
Oh, we keep
Go ahead,
doing it.
Manny.
All right, I'll tell you what. Shaniqua, and I'll go. That's gonna be that. Go ahead.
I even tried to pause this time. But I think it's important. I mean, the reality is, and it's two big pictures. One is that great teachers were rifted or laid off for many years. So it wasn't that they just left, is that unfortunately, due to budget cuts and budget reasons, those teachers were laid off. And I think it's probably the worst thing that could have happened, or that has happened in the Paterson Public School District. Something, that we've definitely put our foot down and make sure that it didn't keep occurring. The next thing is salaries. A lot of our teachers, and it's understandable, there are districts that have much higher salaries than we do. And some of them, for their own families and for their own growth, do leave. We've lost phenomenal teachers to that as well. And it's something that we need to look at internally. But it's also those partnerships that Commissioner Redmond spoke about with the different universities as we're trying to really bring in, all those individuals who are interested and who want to be part of Paterson Public Schools and cultivating that new education, that new group of educators, but also support. I think that for many years as well, the support to our teachers, the support to our educators wasn't given to the best of the district's ability. And it's really about that partnership, and it's really about that working together that for a long time was lacking. So it's really cultivating educators, is partnering with entities to make sure that we have educators and that new group come in. And it's we have permanent subs and we have permanent IAs who want to be teachers and who want to grow and to want to have their own classrooms. And it's partnering with them so that we can help them with those resources, whether it's helping them get their certification or get whatever documentation that they need, and really bring them into being, educators in our district full time. And I think that's very important. We have so many IAs and so many substitutes that want to be a part of that. And it's working with them to provide them that opportunity while supporting our current staff, making sure that all their needs are met. So we're supporting so that they can properly teach our students and they can do it effectively. And as well as cultivating a new group of educators that want to come in. I think those things are very important.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To make our teachers stay, I have to be realistic and honest with this question. And the first thing that popped in my mind was quality of life here in our city. Honestly, I can only speak for myself and people that I know, but I know every day it's a daily struggle to live here in Paterson, to want to stay here in Paterson, and to fight. So honestly, realistically, we're asking and we're saying, come here in our district. It would be great. It will be amazing. But again, we have to put that pressure on our city officials to make people want to come here and stay here and work here. We have to do our best to bring up our children to have pride in our city, to stay in our city, to want to aspire to live here and grow up here in our city. So honestly, realistically, we have to fix the quality of life here firstly in our city, not only for future teachers, but for us who currently live here and our children that we're talking about and growing to be here in our city. And then nextly, we have to listen to our teachers and really support our teachers. They are the ones who are with these children how many hours of the day. They are the ones that we're saying be therapists, be social workers, teach math, teach reading, be the art teacher, do all of these things. And their safety, the materials that they have, the buildings that they work in, the books, the resources, we have to make sure we're giving them the best to do their job. So quality of life and really truly giving our teachers what they need to do their job and want to stay here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So this question yesterday when it was posed really got me fired up. So I'll try to really, hit that again. So two things that were really important when I was asked this question. First, it's about recruitment, making sure that we're able to recruit teachers, who look, to be frank, and come from the places that we come from. One of the most impactful things that I had in my life and what really steered me towards becoming a teacher is the impact that I had on young people every day who came from the same neighborhoods that I come from and speak the same language and things of that nature. So recruitment and then reflection. Again, we need to have our teachers be reflective of the community that they serve. So often, I've encountered, individuals who just never really had that relatability with our students because they never really understood the backgrounds or the needs that are a lot of or the struggles that a lot of our children are facing every single day. So recruiting teachers who have an understanding, who reflect where we come from are of paramount importance. We talked about, not only in Paterson, but across the country, a lot of teachers are leaving the profession because the pay isn't what it should be. Again, teachers wear many hats. You're a nurse, you're the teacher, you're the therapist, you're the aunt, you're so many things. And the level of compensation just isn't what it needs to be. So you see people leaving. So if you want to retain, recruit, and get better quality individuals, in the realm of teaching, you have to pay them better. And one of the things that we spoke about in the past, and I mentioned yesterday, was the notion of a teacher's village. subsidized apartment or living spaces for the teachers. There are pockets in this city where you have condensed schools, multiple schools in certain areas, and there's plenty of space available. There have been preliminary conversations about having those spaces become available for them. Subsidize those apartments, those living spaces, entice them to move into the city. You give them buy-in, because now this is not just something that, they're driving away at 3:30. They're still in the community, and it incentivizes them wanting to give more, when they actually live and work and, are a part of the fabric of the city in which they teach and live. I hit that just perfect, Rosie.
Thank you. We have several other great questions in the chat. However, I think it's time for us to give the candidates an opportunity to wrap. So what we'll commit to doing is, when we post this, we will put the questions and encourage the candidates to continue the dialogue under the video. So Karen, back to you. We lost Karen. I hope she's okay. So our final question, this last round before we wrap up, is to invite you to make a closing statement. Each of you just take 1 minute each and address our community. And again, you can select what order you go in.
I'm 1G, so I'll go first. So I am Shaniqua Lemon, 1G on your ballot. This is my second time in 2020 last year, during a pandemic year when we all were in our houses and probably losing our minds and going crazy. I just felt in my heart that what can I do? So from here, where I'm talking to you now, I downloaded the petition and I decided to run for school board. It wasn't, anything that I planned to do. It was just an action of being frustrated and just feeling like I'm capable. So if you believe that I'm capable, if you have watched me in this past year and a half or known me before this, which I do feel the support from the community, and I am truly grateful. I'm mind blown every day of just, God's ability to just allow me to do this. So again, if you feel in your heart and you feel that I'm capable, vote 1G, passion, purpose, partnerships. Thank you, everybody.
So I'll go next. As a child here and the product of Paterson, I've been working for the last 21 years through several different boards that I sit on. Dedication and community service is what I do. So sitting on here on the Board of Education for the past 6 years, I would like to continue the work that I've been doing. Now that we're back to local control, I would like that the partnerships that we talked about from the parents and also from local governments to be involved. I want you to hold us accountable, because we need to be held accountable. Force us to learn more. Make us be realistic in what our goals are for our students. I would love to have the opportunity to remain on this board. This is the reason why I felt that it was a need for me to return here and to seek re-election. With those being said, you can see that I am a dedicated individual to this city. Sometimes our city gets us to be upset, but I'm not giving up on the city of Paterson, plus the children of Paterson. So again, my name is Nakima Redmond, and I appreciate being here, but I hope to return again. I am 3G on the ballot.
Thank you.
So just making sure Mandy's not jumping in. But first I want to thank you, Rosie, and all of PEF and the board for this opportunity. My name is Oshin Castillo. I am 2G on the ballot. Paterson is the only city I've ever known, ever lived. My husband is the only city he's ever known as well. And now we have a baby boy who would be, a student at Paterson Public Schools sooner than I thought. And, this is more important to me than ever. I started on the school board because I had a brother who needed service, needed support. And I realized that there were many young men of color that their needs weren't being met. I started an organization to help young women while I was in college. And now, he graduated from Rosa Parks high school last year. And now I have a beautiful baby boy I have to make sure that we're supporting, just like many of the parents and many of the community members in our city and the vision that we have for our children. I was the opportunity to be a board president for 2 years. We have reached local control. We have created a budget that still needs additional work, but we've been able to stop all layoffs. We have a standard curriculum across the district. We are restructuring our high schools to meet new technical needs and certifications for our students, that we can really make sure that our students are staying in Paterson, that they get the best education, and that we don't lose them to the streets, that they know that they have the opportunity and open those doors of what is possible for them. We've created various partnerships with various universities, with PEF, to making sure that our district is moving forward in the best direction and moving forward in the right direction. Our facilities, we have an energy savings program that not only is saving us in our budget, but is returning on our investment to make sure that we can put those monies back into the building for maintenance, for new roofs. There are so many other things that we've been able to accomplish, but there are so many other things that need to be done. So I ask for your support for my third term on the board. The record is there, and we need true partnership to work together. Again, my name is Oshin Castillo, 2G on the ballot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I want to first start by saying thank you to Rosie, to Karen, and to everybody at PEF, to all of the folks out there who are participating, for submitting your questions, and for taking the time out to be here with us this evening. Thank you. It's that type of engagement that we need to continue to grow in our district, and I think that's we're on our way to continued success in so doing. Last night I want to kind of just echo the sentiments that I shared last night. I want to say congratulations and thank you to my 3 colleagues who are on this dais. It's not an easy thing to subject yourself to the public in this capacity when you're talking about running for an elected spot. But I think everybody has really been doing an up and up job, so I want to commend them. And again, unfortunately, the math works in such a way where there's 4 folks running for 3 positions. That means one of us is not going to get there. But I also want us to be mindful that even though we are opponents in an election, we are not opponents in the work that we do for the greater good of our city. So I want us to keep that at the forefront of everything that we do moving forward, because again, 3 of us will go ahead and move on, and those folks, whoever they may be, are going to have to sit at that dais as board members and work together. So again, while we may be opponents in this election, we are certainly not opponents in the work that we do for the betterment of our city and for our district. So kudos to everyone for that. I'm 4G on your ballot. I forgot to mention that yesterday. I guess that's important so folks know where to find me. As of October 23rd, you can start early voting in 2 locations found in the city of Paterson. So that's also important to know. You don't have to wait until election day to go to vote. You can actually start voting 9 days in advance. So we encourage everyone to go out and vote. Who you vote for is your choice, but you can also vote for more than 1 candidate. There are 3 spots available, so you can choose 3 candidates to vote for. So we encourage you to participate, engage, get out and vote. And don't forget, you can start voting as early as October 23rd. If you're voting by ballot or or when you actually get to the box, we're on the bottom row. So we should say vote from the bottom up, because folks tend to start at the top row A and then they think they're done. No. Start at the bottom, work your way up. So thank you.
Perfect again. Thank you.
How did we do that?
So, with that, I'm going to wrap us up. On behalf of Paterson Education Fund, I would like to thank you candidates for participating, and thank you to all our viewers for watching. I would be remiss if I did not thank the people who are in the background making this work. So thank you to Doris, Linda, and Annette for your help with this evening. Karen, as always, skillful moderation. Thank you so much. We're glad to count you amongst our partners, and most especially as our board secretary. We will post this on YouTube with a link on our Facebook page, so watch out for that in the next day or 2. And as I said before, we will hope to continue the conversation by posting the questions that were here tonight but we did not get to, and encourage you to also post your questions and the candidates to continue the conversation. Our educated voters guide will be also posted toward the end of this week. Don't forget to vote. Manny beat me to the punch. Early voting starts October 23rd. And remember, you can also do your mail-in ballots, and your final opportunity to vote will be Election Day, Tuesday, November 2nd. Our kids can't vote, but you can, and they need your vote. So please make an educated vote for our students. Thank you so much and have a good night.
Thank you, Rosie.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night.